Napoleon is not far away from releasing in theatres worldwide, and I've yet to give my thoughts on Ridley Scott's latest epic and what I think about it going in. Since CinemaCon, with all the positive early reactions to footage and recent trailers, there's this sense of an epic scale to Scott's movie that we haven't gotten much since Gladiator, and with it, my anticipation levels have only gone up. Add on that we've got an Oscar winner in Joaquin Phoenix driving the film, other talented individuals working with Scott, or a powerful moment in history that the director is bringing to screen, and it only fuels what we could expect to see later this month. So in this video essay, I'm going to be discussing the reasons why I'm personally excited for Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my content surrounding Scott's latest film when it releases, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into Ridley Scott's Napoleon. So with his latest epic Napoleon, Ridley Scott is once again making a return to the historical film, adapting the life of Napoleon Bonaparte, the legendary French dictator and military general. Scott has given us some of the all-time greats, directing a range of very different films in his filmography, whether it be Gladiator, Alien, Blade Runner, The Martian, or Black Hawk Down. While he's given us some absolute classics though, in recent times, he has released a few films that have been mainly mixed amongst audience members and critics, whether it be the recent Alien Covenant, Exodus, Gods and Kings, or House of Gucci. And on top of this, a lot of them have underperformed at the box office. Now, I've personally enjoyed a lot of his work, and even if I don't think he's been able to reach the quality of what he used to make, every one of his films is a distinct swing that works for me on some level. Not to forget that some of those movies were up against studio interference and bad applications of modern CGI. But again, there's sequences and filmmaking approaches that I do like more than most. For instance, I like the absurdity and humour of particular moments in House of Gucci, I like the ambition of the sci-fi filmmaking attached to films like Prometheus, and I like how Scott captures a somewhat exciting drama with, say, The Last Duel. So while I don't think he's been able to hit a home run on all fronts since that of, say, Gladiator, there are things that I think have worked, and with Napoleon being a full-on return to a genre that we like to see Scott operate in, I think it does have huge potential to join the list of the director's greatest projects. After Kingdom of Heaven, Robin Hood, and Exodus, there's been a clear interest from the filmmaker to return to the heights of Gladiator, and we also know that he's currently working on a Gladiator 2. So now that we've got Napoleon coming out, I think there's a lot of reasons we should be excited for it, and ones that make it much more anticipated than recent historical epics by the director. To start with, the director seems to have much more creative freedom with his Napoleon film over at Apple Plus, making a different kind of historical epic than the ones he's made before. It marks a reunion between Ridley Scott and Joaquin Phoenix for the first time since Gladiator, and the actor this time is playing the French Emperor during his 15-year rule. Based on what we've seen already in the trailers and footage, Scott has been able to get another powerful performance from his actor years after he directed him to his first Oscar nomination with Gladiator. And with Phoenix now progressing in his career and having recently won the Best Actor award, it can only mean great things for Napoleon from an acting perspective. Add on the extended cast with solid performers like Vanessa Kirby and production crew members like cinematographer Dariusz Kowalski and composer Martin Phipps, and you get a lot of potential in front and behind the camera. However, However, what really makes me say that this is an interesting take on the historical epic by Ridley Scott is that his approach to the material is much different in regards to the leading character. Rather than depicting the French figure as a great military leader or as the dictator or villain that the British sees him as, we're getting to the heart of all of it. While Napoleon's moral state was quite ambiguous, it's known to many that he kept Europe at war and killed millions in the process. So what is different about Scott's take on Napoleon is that from what we've seen, it's about the leader himself over focusing on one high or low moment in his life, like other adaptations of Napoleon have done before. And in flipping what we saw in Gladiator, we're seeing both the highs and the downfall of Napoleon all at the same time. Scott is aiming to put us inside the mind of Napoleon Bonaparte, keeping the real drama that took place in history, and as I just said, cover it all rather than just one intriguing element. From this, it sounds like he's aiming to capture that larger sense for the epic tale that he used to capture so magnificently well, yet do so with a big sense for the intimate. We already get a good sense from the trailer footage that a part of the film is focused on the relationship between the French leader and Vanessa Kirby's Empress Joséphine, really indicating that the filmmaker has tried to get as close as he could to Napoleon's story, just like other historical films in 2023 have done too. Both Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon and Nolan's Oppenheimer take history and information on the page and adapt the story with a more personal touch, giving the audience a greater lens into the true heart of it. So with Ridley adapting both Napoleon's rise and tyrant side, it's clear that the film is taking on a different angle than what we saw with the lead in Gladiator. In that film, we saw one man fight back against the Roman Empire, facing an impossible battle against Joaquin Phoenix's Emperor. Maximus uses revenge and his physical strength in the Gladiator pits to build support, and we don't question his brutality because we are with him in that fight. On the flip side, it looks like Napoleon is not being depicted as the underdog. We see him in the height of his powers ruling, with all the corruption lying beneath. So from this kind of approach, Scott's challenge is to get the audience to be on that side of the fence, and even if Napoleon is portrayed in a villainous way, he'll have to make us be thoroughly compelled by his actions. I think the trailers do a great job already in making us believe that this is pulled off well, and it's probably one of the main reasons why I think it could be one of Scott's most interesting movies in years. Coming now to the last topic, I think one of the main questions surrounding this film is whether it can actually be successful in the vein of Scott's success with Gladiator. The Martian was his last big draw at the box office, making $630 million worldwide on a $108 million budget. Now, movies generally need to make around 2 and a bit more times their budgets to break even, and with Napoleon having a $130 million budget, that would mean that we're looking at around $320 million for it to make a profit. That is a big ask for the director, coming off of not many successful films in recent years, but I do think that the interest in Napoleon seems to be much bigger than some of the filmmaker's more recent releases, as seen with the trailer views and marketing interaction. From my own perspective, I've had a lot of people mentioning the film and asking me questions about it, more than I've seen with many of Scott's recent movies. So I think there's definitely more attraction towards his latest project. While the historical epic has been produced by Apple, the streamer is also totally committed to its wider theatrical release, and we got a huge sense of their support at CinemaCon earlier this year, as attendees made it known that Napoleon was one of the most exciting things they saw there. It's clearly made for the big screen, it has an epic scale, it has a driving performance from Phoenix, and the studio has confidently backed it all the way. Now, I will say this, I don't think it'll match the success of something like Gladiator, but I do think it can be somewhat successful under this theatrical model. Recently, Killers of the Flower Moon may have had an underwhelming box office performance under Apple, but like the studio seems to be suggesting with the types of theatrical auteur-driven content they are making, they are more in it for the long term. They know that if directors like Scorsese and Scott are making great content that is meant to be appreciated over time, that the audience will eventually see that quality with the more projects they release. And we see that quite consistently from filmmakers like this, so it's good to see that a studio like Apple is backing these types of films over the quantity-driven models that the other streamers are typically focusing on. So essentially, on the box office side of things, we'll have to wait and see how Napoleon fares. But in terms of the content of this telling, there's definitely a lot to be excited about. With Ridley Scott demonstrating a clear interest in Napoleon as a historical figure, we have the opportunity to see a mostly accurate telling of his life on the big screen, one that challenges us, one that fascinates us, and one that entertains us too. It may not look like one of the most original film ideas at face value, but knowing Ridley Scott, he always strives to put an enormous amount of passion and effort into telling a particular story. And like his earlier work, Napoleon looks like one that is on a huge scale, and one that is also relatable to our times. But that was my video discussing why Napoleon has the potential to be one of Ridley Scott's best films in years. Again, the movie could turn out to be either a great project or either another mixed bag for the filmmaker, but the potential of the history that he's basing his new movie off, the talent attached to it, and what we've seen in the trailers thus far makes me incredibly excited to see how it all turns out. It's been a great year for quality historical films by prestige filmmakers, and Napoleon seems like it could be another with a whole lot of potential. We'll have to see, but overall, Ridley Scott's Napoleon is now my most anticipated film for the rest of 2023, and I hope that individually it can become one of the best of this year, up there with Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. But are you excited for Ridley Scott's new film, and like me, do you think it could be his best film since Gladiator? I'm interested to hear what you guys think, so let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos on Ridley Scott's Napoleon when it releases later this month, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.